Hi, my name is John Counsell. I'm a senior reporter at Texas Lawyer newspaper, and welcome to the August 22nd, 2008 edition of Reversed and Remanded. My guest today is Bob Webster. Bob used to be one heck of a high-level prosecutor in the Northern District of Texas U.S. Attorney's Office. Now he's jumped to the other side. You're with Fitzpatrick, Hagood, Smith, and Ewell. Your name isn't on that firm yet, is it?
No, it's not. There's a bunch of us that are players to be named later.
Okay.
Okay. I hope.
All right, Bob. First issue of the week is a opinion out of the Fifth Circuit, which I thought was fascinating just for the background on this thing. It's an appeal by a guy by the name of Luis Posada. He shows up in El Paso in 2005, kind of comes in from the cold. And this guy is alleged to have been involved in all sorts of things, ranging from the Bay of Pigs. He went to Venezuela, spent time in prison there. He's alleged to he's a Cuban exile. He's alleged to have tried to assassinate Fidel Castro. He's alleged to have blown up airliners, all sorts of things. So he comes here to our fair country and asks for naturalization. And what happens is the government treats him a little different than just a normal person who wants that. Spends an 8-hour interview with him with DOJ lawyers, Department of Homeland Security lawyers. They give him his Fifth Amendment warnings, and then they indict him for allegedly lying on his immigration application. And the whole issue here, Bob, is whether or not the government should have warned him that, hey, we've got a criminal investigation going on here, you better watch yourself. This apparently really angered the district court judge, who said it was, outrageous. And the Fifth Circuit said, no, you don't have the duty. The government does not have to warn a person in a civil proceeding about a potential criminal investigation. And Bob, is that a pitfall, you think, for folks that you're now representing?
Well, I think it's probably the litigation. Lewis's litigation is probably the wave of the future. There's been district court cases in the 11th Circuit and the 9th Circuit that the government oversteps their bounds when they're not completely candid about the nature of an interview or the nature of their dealings. If you're dealing with the SEC and the Department of Justice is lurking in the background, a district court in Oregon found that to be outrageous conduct. Right. I think in the Health South issues on that prosecution, there was a dismissal because the civil proceeding cloaked a criminal proceeding. And I think that is gaining some headway, although the 9th Circuit has reversed the district court, and the 5th Circuit has never held the opinion that a cloaked criminal investigation under the auspices of a naturalization or an SEC investigation or even an IRS investigation is basis for dismissal. I think the short answer is, you're dealing with the government, you better turn some pretty dang square corners on your answers, because you're going to be subject to criminal prosecution. Civil proceeding, criminal proceeding, no proceeding.
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, since you were a federal prosecutor for so long, was it pretty common that you would use a civil proceeding to do sort of a gotcha on somebody who you knew was probably liable to have committed a crime? And is that common or uncommon?
That's probably a never.
Really?
In my context. Now, if a civil proceeding was instituted by the defendant, sued the government, we anticipated that there would be a parallel criminal proceeding, a forfeiture, a contested forfeiture, something of that nature. Would we use the deposition material or the admissions? Yes, absolutely.
You're kind of asking for it there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You kind of invite that kind of scrutiny.
Right.
But in the context of cloaking a criminal investigation under the sheep's clothing of a civil investigation or a civil lawsuit, I can't recall that ever being the case.
And I asked this of other people. Do you think this case has a potential to get Supreme Court review, or is it too?
Well, I think the law is fairly certain.
Yeah.
The law is certain that, again, if you deal with the government, you better tell them the truth.
Right.
And it's going to have to be truly outstanding or outrageous, notable, extraordinary government misconduct.
Yeah.
This is a somewhat sympathetic defendant, but in a lot of ways he's an unsympathetic defendant.
Yeah.
He admits to illegally entering the United States in some form, although he hasn't got his story straight exactly how he did it. Either by
Allegedly,
boat or
yeah.
by coyote over Mexico. So
Yeah.
there's facts that would weigh against Supreme Court review. So I bet we're stuck with this opinion.
Okay. All right, final issue, we've got the HLF case, which has been, is looming. It's got a trial date here pretty soon, and the defense, one of the things that they'd argued for putting off the trial is that, look, we haven't been paid, we haven't got enough money to pay our expert witnesses from the court. Hey, give us a little bit of rope here. And the Fifth Circuit, actually the trial court judge, Judge Solis, said no, we're going to go ahead. Bob, interesting situation here. Do you think that maybe we could be risking the defendant's constitutional rights to a fair trial by making them go to trial when they don't have money for their witnesses? Is that going to have any?
When I left the government, there was a couple of key sage advice nuggets that were given to me. One is, never step on your integrity. The other was get your money up front. That is the risk on handling CJA appointments, appointed indigent counsel. You don't have your money up front.
Right.
Unfortunately, sometimes that's the tariff of handling public appointments for public service. And it's unfair. I'm sure these lawyers are going to be in accounts receivable issues through the course of the trial. It's going to be a substantial trial. To the extent that they're not going to get paid, that's not the problem. If there is a Fifth Amendment issue, it's going to be on the possibility of expert witnesses being uncompensated. But they'll provide excellent representation. For no money, no compensation, just the lawyers they are.
Okay. All right, it's now time for me to put Bob in the witness stand. I'm going to ask him some really stupid questions and see if he can handle it. I think you can, Bob. We'll see.
I'll give it a good try.
All right.
Thank you.
Bob, if I gave you a one-day free pass to break any law in the penal code, which one would you choose?
1 day free pass. Probably failure to pay tolls on the tollway.
Man, I don't even know if that was in the penal code.
Oh, it may not be.
All right. Well, that's a municipal code. I'll let you. That's okay.
Let me slide on
I'll
that?
let you slide on that.
How about
All right.
the crime of not knowing what's in the penal code?
Well, you shouldn't be practicing law, Bob, if you don't know that. Okay.
Some would say that.
All right. Bob, since your firm is all male, does it ever start smelling like a locker room in there?
When Dan Hagood comes in the morning, it's more liniment than it is dirty socks. We are not only all male but elderly. And Ben Gay, the smell of Ben Gay is pervasive from early morning until late at night.
All right, Dan, take it easy on the workouts. All right, thanks, Bob.
My pleasure.